In March 2025, Disney executives watched in horror as their $270 million bet imploded at the box office. Snow White opened to a devastating $43 million domestic weekend, roughly $87 million worldwide, numbers that spelled disaster for what should have been a billion-dollar franchise. The math was brutal. Against a $270 million budget, these opening numbers meant the film would lose hundreds of millions of dollars. But here's what makes this failure so fascinating. Just 3 years earlier, the star of this disaster was Hollywood's golden girl. January 2022, Rachel Zegler, at just 20 years old, held a Golden Globe for Best Actress. She called her win very strange, as it came exactly 3 years to the day after Steven Spielberg cast her. She'd beaten out 30,000 other hopefuls to star in West Side Story, going from unknown New Jersey teen posting song covers on YouTube to Spielberg's chosen one practically overnight. Disney immediately saw her potential, casting her as their first Latina Snow White in what should have been a crown jewel role. The industry was so confident in her that she landed leading roles in Shazam 2, the Hunger Games prequel, and other major projects. She was supposed to be America's new sweetheart, a young Latina actress representing Hollywood's diverse future. But behind the glittering facade, warning signs were already appearing. During her West Side Story casting, studio executives repeatedly questioned whether she was legit Latina because her last name didn't sound Hispanic. Ziegler later recalled how strange it was to have a bunch of white executives have you prove your identity to them. The 2022 Oscar campaign revealed more cracks when Ziegler publicly aired her grievance about not being invited to the Academy Awards, creating a minor PR hiccup that reflected poorly on Disney's handling of talent. Disney ultimately relented and got her into the ceremony, but it was a sign that Ziegler was willing to go public with discontent, a trait that big Hollywood studios generally dislike in their stars. Her social media presence, initially seen as refreshingly authentic, began showing a pattern of unfiltered opinions that would soon prove costly to the big studios. But the real destruction began in mid-2023, when the internet discovered something that would change everything. Clips from Zegler's 2022 Snow White interviews suddenly resurfaced on TikTok, and they went viral for all the wrong reasons.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
She even admitted to Entertainment Weekly that she'd only watched the original film twice in her life and found it extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power. These weren't new comments, they were nearly a year old, but on TikTok they exploded like a bomb. I'd like to add my personal take on this. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion about things in the world. Just because a story is a childhood favourite for some doesn't mean someone else isn't allowed to have a more critical perspective on it. Coming back to Rachel, cultural analysts noted that it's not so much what Ziegler said as how she said it that ruffled feathers. Her sarcastic tone when calling the prince a stalker struck millions as disdainful of a film they held dear. Fans of the original Snow White were offended that a 22-year-old actress seemed to be bad-mouthing their childhood favourite. People online started using Zegler's interview clip.
Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
To mock her opinion. TikTok users were angry that Zegler seemed to be insulting the original movie instead of respectfully updating it. TikTok users joined in trashing Zegler for her comments about the classic film, with many feeling she had crossed a line in how she discussed the original. Memes and viral tweets portrayed Zegler as an ungrateful Disney princess who hates Disney. The backlash formed what Slate.com called an unholy union between traditional Disney lovers and political conservatives. One side didn't like the disrespect to the classic, the other seized on her comments as evidence of woke Hollywood desecrating America. But this was just the beginning of her viral destruction. Quick pause, more than 90% of you guys have not subscribed to the channel, and I would really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button. I would love to grow this into a larger community by the end of the year, and would love for you to join along and be one of the initial supporters of the channel. Now let us dive into how things got even worse for Rachel Zegler. The social media pile-on intensified when another clip surfaced from March 2023. At the Shazam Fury of the Gods premiere, Zegler was asked why she chose to join the DC sequel.
I'm being so serious. I mean, a lot of people keep asking me. No, I mean, the reality was we were in the middle of a pandemic and I was not working and I couldn't get a job for the life of me.
To passionate DC fans, this admission sounded almost offensive, as if she was saying she didn't really care about the role and just did it for a paycheck. On Reddit and Twitter, fans of comic book movies got upset because an actor from a popular series didn't seem excited or really into it. But here's where it gets interesting. Around the same time, actor Jacob Elordi made a similar quip about taking roles because he needed a job, and the internet reaction was far more forgiving.
I mean, I just play what they give me. I need a job.
Many praised Elordi's candor and laughed along that, of course, actors take jobs to pay bills. A Twitter user called out the double standard. When Jacob Elordi says he took a part because he needs a job, it's a funny joke. But when Rachel Zegler says the same thing, it's bratty. This contrast hinted at an underlying gender bias in audience reactions. Young women in Hollywood are expected to display gratefulness and humility, whereas young men can be nonchalant without much blowback. Still, the needed a job meme stuck to Zegler, and critics started using it as a quick way to say she doesn't really care about the project she works on. But the worst was yet to come. August 10th, 2024. Disney's D23 fan event should have been a triumph for Zegler. The Snow White trailer premiered to significant online attention. Zegler posted a thank you note to fans celebrating the trailer's reception. Then she added 4 words that would nearly destroy her career. And always remember, free Palestine. That single line garnered nearly 16 million views, significantly eclipsing the attention on the trailer itself. By injecting a geopolitical statement into a Disney marketing moment, Zegler shocked executives inside the company. The ramifications were immediate and concrete. Fox News ran a headline, "Rachel Zegler stirs more controversy," implying a brewing clash given that her co-star Gal Gadot is Israeli. Right-wing commentators criticized her for being anti-Israel. Pro-Palestinian activists applauded her courage. But behind the scenes, Disney was in crisis mode. The film's producer personally flew to meet Zegler and convey the studio's worries. There were real-world safety issues. Gadot reportedly faced a spike in death threats after Zegler's post, given Gadot's past service in the Israeli Defense Forces. Disney had to ramp up security measures for Gadot. An insider captured the studio's frustration. She didn't understand the repercussions of her actions as far as what that meant for the film, for Gal, for anyone. From Disney's point of view, Zegler's passionate political views came off as naive and out of touch with the practical side of promoting a big-budget movie worldwide. By alienating a significant portion of the audience, she was putting a huge financial investment at risk. But if Disney thought things couldn't get worse, they were wrong. November 2024. Just after Donald Trump's re-election victory, Zegler doubled down on political outspokenness. She posted, "Fuck Donald Trump and May Trump supporters, never know peace," on Instagram. Given that Trump had just been re-elected with roughly half the American electorate's support, Zegler's message was effectively telling millions of Americans, including many potential Disney film consumers, that she despised them. From Disney's perspective, this was catastrophic timing. Snow White was already tracking poorly and could not afford to drive away any segment of moviegoers. One executive worried that the star was basically telling half the potential audience of an already struggling movie not to bother watching it. This was the final straw. Disney finally imposed strict controls. They arranged for Zegler to work with a social media advisor and vet her postings in the lead up to the film's release. Think about what this represents. A major studio had to hire someone specifically to control what their star was saying online. Disney essentially caged their own actress because her authentic voice had become a liability. The studio even scheduled Zegler and Gadot's press activities carefully to avoid any messy interactions. At the March 2025 premiere, they skipped traditional red carpet interviews entirely, choosing a photo-only event instead. It's not normal for a big Disney movie to skip press interviews at its premiere. That's usually a key moment to promote the film. The fact that Disney skipped the interviews shows they saw letting Zegler speak freely as more of a risk than a benefit. When Snow White opened to that devastating $43 million, industry insiders didn't mince words about what had gone wrong. A box office analyst noted that there was too much negative controversy surrounding this film for years, and it clearly didn't help audience turnout. But here's what makes Rachel Zegler's fall so significant. It wasn't really about her at all. She became a lightning rod for much larger cultural tensions. As Zegler herself recognized, "I've watched women get torn down my whole life, and we're going to witness that for a long time." The backlash against her reveals the impossible tightrope that young women, especially women of color, must walk in the public eye. Be authentic and speak your truth, and you risk being branded as arrogant or ungrateful. Stay silent, and you're criticized for being fake or not using your platform. Zegler's experience illustrates how gendered expectations played a role in her reception. The same candor that might be praised as refreshing honesty in a male actor was reframed as bratty or entitled when coming from a young Latina woman. Her political engagement was seen through the lens of a young woman stepping out of her lane, rather than a citizen exercising her right to speak on issues she cared about. The nostalgia factor amplified everything. Disney fans didn't just see criticism of a 1937 cartoon, they saw an attack on their childhood memories. When someone challenges a beloved story, audiences can react as if their personal history is being invalidated. Zegler inadvertently became a symbol of unwanted change, of modern modern values imposing themselves on treasured classics. Social media turned what might have been minor missteps into sustained campaigns of criticism. The algorithm rewarded engagement, and negativity generates more engagement than positivity. Honestly, I even thought about calling this video The Satisfying Downfall of Rachel Zegler, because, like it or not, titles like that get clicks and views. The ironic part is, even though I'm trying to show that she wasn't wrong for speaking her mind, the video would actually do better if I used a negative title that gets people to click out of anger. Depending on how you ended up finding this video, I might have made the title sound negative just to get you to click. If you got clickbaited, I'm sorry, but since you've made it this far, I hope you get why I felt like I had to go that route. Anyways, back to Zegler. Clips of her comments were constantly recirculated, often stripped of context, creating an echo chamber of outrage. Each controversial moment built on the previous ones, creating a narrative of a star who couldn't stop putting her foot in her mouth. The viral nature of these platforms means that years-old comments can suddenly explode, as if they were new, catching celebrities off guard. Zegler learned this the hard way when her interviews resurfaced in 2023 with devastating effect. But perhaps most importantly, her story reveals the fragility of modern celebrity. In previous generations, a young actress with genuine talent like Zegler would have been carefully managed and protected by studio publicists. Now, with stars tweeting directly to millions of followers, studios find themselves in reactive mode, trying to contain damage after it's already done. The democratization of media has given audiences unprecedented power to shape celebrity narratives. Fans collectively decide if someone needs to be taken down a peg and effectively participate in doing so through viral posts and trending topics. There's an almost adversarial relationship between celebrities and audiences now, where fandoms can turn into vigilante mobs if they feel a star has violated certain expectations. The phrase satisfying fool in discussions about Zegler reveals an uncomfortable truth. Some audiences take genuine pleasure in seeing successful young women humbled. This schadenfreude speaks to deeper cultural resentments about who gets to have a voice and who gets to succeed. For conservative commentators, Zegler turned into the perfect example of woke Hollywood finally facing the consequences. Her failure was seized upon as validation that audiences would reject progressive messaging. But the reality is more complex than any simple culture war narrative. Zegler's story shows how individual celebrities often get caught in cultural crossfire and become symbols onto which larger societal debates are projected. The personal gets obliterated by the political. Yet there are signs that this story isn't over. Despite all the controversy, Hollywood didn't abandon Zegler entirely. She wasn't fired from any of her roles, and she continued to work throughout the backlash. Her performance in the Hunger Games prequel was generally well received, and she successfully debuted on Broadway. In recent interviews, she's shown a more measured approach, striking a humbler tone while still maintaining her convictions. In a February 2025 Vogue Mexico interview, she reframed the Snow White backlash diplomatically, saying, "I interpret people's feelings about this film as passion for it, and what an honour to be able to be a part of something that people are so passionate about." This represents a significant evolution from her earlier defensive or critical remarks. She's learned to navigate the impossible balance between authenticity and strategy that modern celebrities must master. Industry insiders suggest that with time and careful career management, Zegler could recover from this period. Many stars have bounced back from worse controversies. What's certain is that Rachel Zegler's experience has already become a case study in Hollywood boardrooms. Studios are learning they must attempt to rein in stars on social media without completely stifling the authenticity that audiences crave. It's a tricky balancing act, and one that's only going to matter more as the entertainment world deals with the challenges of instant, worldwide communication. The lesson for future young stars is clear. In an age when anyone's pedestal can be knocked over by a viral tweet, every public statement carries potentially career-altering consequences. The margin for error has never been smaller, especially for women and minorities in the spotlight. But there's also a cautionary tale for audiences. The power to build up and tear down celebrities comes with responsibility. The way people happily join in on someone's public shaming says more about us as a society than it does about the person being torn down. Rachel Zegler's satisfying fool ultimately says less about her personal failings and more about our cultural moment, a time of intense polarization, social media amplification, and the collision between old and new values. Whether her story becomes a cautionary tale of unchecked authenticity or an inspiring narrative of resilience and growth remains to be written. But one thing is certain: in the digital age, the distance between triumph and disaster has never been shorter. And for every young person watching Rachel Zegler navigate the aftermath of her fall, the message is clear. Fame is more fragile than ever, but so is the power of a single voice to shape the conversation. The question isn't whether the next Rachel Zegler will emerge, but whether we'll be ready to handle their authenticity with more wisdom and compassion than we showed this time. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. Please do consider subscribing to the channel if you found value in this. Oh, and YouTube thinks you will like this video. Do watch it before you leave.